Welcome back to the Common Constitutionalist podcast, and this is the Common Constitutionalist once again coming at you. And I'm going to be discussing a couple of topics today. The first being Navy sexism. Yes, the Obama administration has decided that terms in the Navy, such as man overboard or midshipman, has man in it, and thus is sexist, and that can't happen. So they're going to review the whole naval system with all their titles and get rid of all the references to man. Also, the Common Constitutionalist is having a bit of a constitutional crisis, and I frankly am not sure what to do about it. So I'm just going to, off the top of my head, discuss it, because I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm an outlier. Maybe I'm a freak. I don't know what the heck. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just going to discuss it because I think what's important to me, and it may bore the crap out of everybody, but so be it. Today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black
Well, the Obama administration is at it again, using the military as their little social laboratory, and this time it's the Navy. It seems the Navy uses too many terms involving men and man, and that's just not productive, and it's just not nice, I guess. So, the Navy is planning to make job titles gender neutral. Like, man overboard, person overboard, or something stupid like that. So here we go again, the Obama, man, I tell you, these people just can't leave soon enough. So it seems that the Navy Secretary Ray Mabus, another Obama sycophant, ordered a review of all job titles to determine whether references to man can be removed from positions such as seaman and yeoman, or corpsman, as Obama likes to say. So what is it going to be? Sea person and yo person? I mean, is the insanity ever going to end? Will the next president, hopefully you know who, put an end to all this nonsense and just get on with the business of protecting the nation's citizens from enemies, foreign and domestic, instead of all this social justice nonsense? I feel so bad for the military. I feel so bad for these sailors that are going to have to be put through this crap, all because of this gender identity politics nonsense. As if some woman who's called a corpsman, or some woman who's called the midshipman at the Naval Academy. What are they going to do with midshipmen? Call them midship person? Midship people? I mean, honestly. But apparently not everybody is thrilled to death with this news. I guess social media blew up about this, and they got thousands and thousands of negative comments, not only by vets, but just by normal, average people who have some common sense to them. One who is, in my humble opinion, neither average nor, shall I say, normal, is our Senator John McCain, our friend John McCain. He was a naval hero, and we all know about his background as a naval aviator. But he told Fox News the United States Navy and Marine Corps have too many real enemies to defeat and deter. The Secretary of the Navy should have better things to do than adding the English language to the list. And he's absolutely right. I cannot remember the last thing I agreed with John McCain. But I wholeheartedly endorse this. This is just absurd. But it's McCain or anyone else is hardly going to deter the Obama administration from putting another imprint on the military, putting their imprint on the military and adding to his radical legacy. So I guess this is the way this is going to happen. Mabus is going to charge John Richardson, he's the Chief of Naval Operations, and he's given the task to look at references to man, which currently appear in 20 Navy titles. I can't believe it's only 20, but okay. Then he apparently brought these references to man to the Navy's Chief Petty Officer, Mike Stevens, to help in the review. Now, Master Chief Petty Officers, I don't care what anyone says, if you've been in the Navy, either the officer side or enlisted side, you know who actually runs the Navy. And it ain't the officers. It's the Master Chiefs. These guys have been in there since Abraham Lincoln or George Washington. These guys know everything back and front. They know every regulation known to man. The Master Chiefs are the ones that run the Navy. And I'm telling you, this guy, unless he's some sort of political, I don't know what, I don't know. I don't know this guy, whatever. All I know is that if he's a regular old school Navy Master Chief, at least the way I've known them, he's got to be rolling his eyes to this whole nonsense. I can't believe that he'd even be he has to be a party to this if the Chief of Naval Operations tells him that's what he's going to do, then by gosh, he's going to do it. But if he's, like I said, if he's anything like the Master Chiefs I've known, there is no way that he's going to cooperate fully, or at least cooperate happily with this nonsense. I guarantee you. So I guess after these guys review the titles, the Navy titles for all the man references, they're going to put a working group together, because we know how liberals love working groups. And then they're going to review in April and see which titles not can be, but should be altered to make it much more fair for the ladies in the Navy, of which I guarantee you most of them couldn't care less if they were called a corpsman or a yeoman or a utility man or a personnel man or whatever the heck men. There's no way that they care about this crap. It's just all such nonsense. And it's just, again, like I said, just to put the Obama imprint on the military. So I don't know how this is all going to shake out or how long it's going to take. Hopefully it'll drag on forever so the Obama administration can leave without actually doing any further damage. But I just don't know how it's going to happen. When if somebody falls off a ship or a boat, what are they going to say? Person overboard. What about if a ship's struck and is sinking and they have to man the lifeboats? What are they going to say? Person the lifeboats. All people assembly. What the heck are they going to say? Man the lifeboats. It's not sexist. It's just what you say. It's to get in the daggum lifeboat. I mean, honestly. But it just goes to the liberal mind or the liberal mindset that they don't even think about anything. Everything's emotionally based for these people, and they find problems where problems don't exist. Are these people so bored with their own lives? They're so vacant and vacuous that they have nothing better to do than to stick their noses in places where it's unnecessary and they don't belong. There's no reason to change man overboard or man the lifeboat or torpedo man's mate or whatever, signalman or whatever the heck it happens to be. It's tradition, and it should be upheld because it's just normal, everyday English speak. That's all it is. There's no harm. There's no sexism in it. There's nothing implied by that. It just is. It's just so silly. I like to say it's almost incomprehensible, but it's far too comprehensible with the liberal mindset we've got today. It's the insanity runs deep, baby. I don't know.
You're listening to the Common Constitution. Let the truth be known.
Okay, like I said in the open, I'm having, I don't know if I'd call it a constitutional crisis or whatever, but I seem to be becoming less and less tolerant of the anti-constitutional behavior, not only by government officials, but also by the public. The fact that almost nobody really knows the Constitution, the way it was originally constructed, the way it was originally intended. And I'll tell you, this has got me a little bit, this has got me very dismayed at this point, because anybody can see who knows a modicum of the originalist documents, the Declaration, the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, the original Articles of Confederation, anything, they know that we are in deep duty. And this has bothered me for a while. But I'll tell you, the more I learn about the Constitution, the more I read about the founders and read about what they wrote about the crafting of the Constitution itself. I think part of the problem is that we have all of our politicians and our pundits and everything else pretty much come from the same school of thought, for want of a better term. And that school is law school. Most of these guys are lawyers. And as lawyers, they seem to, at least in my opinion, they seem to put great stock and almost greater stock in court precedent, particularly the Supreme Court precedent, even lower courts and whatnot, rulings and such, rather than going back to the originalist documents, to the construction of the Constitution, the words of the Constitution themselves. And I think that's part of what's made our government so large and unwielding and just oppressive, is the fact that even throughout history, a lot of our legislators and presidents have been attorneys or a similar background. And they come out of these law schools, and this is what they're taught at these law schools, to give great deference to precedent and opinion and whatnot of the people that have come before them, rather than saying, you know what, the heck with your opinion, even Supreme Court opinion. I don't care. Look at the document. Look at the original Constitution, the way it was written, the way it was constructed, and the words. And you don't have to be a constitutional scholar to understand what the words say. As a matter of fact, I think it's a great advantage for somebody like me who has been self-taught, basically. I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on a podcast, radio, or TV, thank heavens. We have too much of them already, and they are a major problem in this country, particularly lawyers turned politician. But for somebody like me, I read the Constitution, and if there's something that I am not sure of or don't understand, it's easy to research. It's easy to read the Federalist Papers and to go on places like heritage.org or Hillsdale College, or people that you know are going to give you an honest, detailed account of the writing of the Constitution, what the words mean if they're unfamiliar to someone. And so it's not difficult to understand what these guys meant. And the problem is that I guess my crisis, it's not really a crisis, I don't know what you'd call it, my disappointment in the current, the current political climate, it's been going on for, I don't know, 150 years or so, something like that, where we've had nothing but anti-constitutional executives throughout history, most of them. And then you can listen to people like Mark Levin, who is he's like no one else, other than maybe Dr. Arnn at Hillsdale and those guys. He is the number one source for me to clarify the Constitution. He knows it. He knows every aspect of it. He knows the originalist intent of it. And that's the key to this whole thing. And this is what really has me dismayed. I'll tell you what really brought this about recently is that a national website, the Daily Caller, they contacted me and asked me to do a book review for a book regarding unconstitutional presidencies. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not even sure if the book has been released yet, so I'm just not going to talk about the specifics. But in it, the author he really put his finger on the problem of the government and the runaway government. And the problem with our constitutional form of government, republicanism, however you want to describe it, federalism, is the executive branch. That has been the problem from day one, from Washington on. That's been the problem, is the executive branch, on occasion, even the good ones on occasion, have given unconstitutional rulings, not vetoing when they're supposed to, allowing unconstitutional legislation to just float through Congress, signing it, and just going about their business, or getting involved in the legislative process. And the author of this book goes through this stuff it's not with a fine-tooth comb necessarily. It's an overview, but it's a detailed overview. And I'll tell you, I am a lot smarter for reading this book. I thought I knew a lot, but I'm not going to say I didn't know diddly, but I know a lot more than I did before I read this book. And when it comes out, when I do my review, I'm going to highly recommend it, because it's a relatively easy read, particularly those who like American history, who like constitutional history, and who want to get a better handle on the usurpation of the executive power over the legislature. This really puts its finger right on it, and it's a fabulous book. And like I said, it's a relatively easy read, even for those people who aren't history buffs necessarily, but really do want to learn where we went awry and kind of what we can do about it, beyond Mark Levin's idea, which is really the way to go, the Convention of States, because we don't have any choice at this point. So I guess my crisis, if you want to call it that, is kind of the fact that I think, to be honest with you, I'm so disappointed in every candidate, even the ones I really like. I'm not so disappointed, but I have a suspicion that they're not going to do what I want them to do. And what I want them to do at this point, now that I kind of know more about the Constitution than a lot of people, frankly, and I'm not being braggadocious or anything like that. I've put a lot of work into this, and it really has, I guess it's paid off in one aspect and it's backfired in another, because it's caused me to really look at the whole broader picture and where we went awry, and the fact that even a candidate like Ted Cruz, who is a constitutional conservative for sure, dyed in the wool, even he, I don't think, will perform the way he's supposed to. He'll be charged with the executive, What am I trying to say here? He'll be the executive, and he'll be closer, I think, to what the original document said that the executive branch is supposed to be. But I fear that even he will allow unconstitutional legislation to just float through. I don't want to say because it's easier and because he doesn't know. I don't know. I'm really bothered by this, I think. But if you go back and read the Constitution and the enumerated powers of the executive branch are almost Zippo. Basically, it is a check against the legislative branch and against the courts, but more the legislative branch because of the three, the legislature is supposed to be the more powerful of the three. Yes, they're supposed to be equal branches and whatnot, but the legislature, the ones that are closest to the people, are supposed to wield the most power. The president, as the executive, has the veto pen, and anything that is unconstitutional, no matter how minor, that the legislature isn't supposed to do, if it's unconstitutional, he has an obligation under the Constitution to veto it, and he's not allowed to be involved in the legislative process. He can suggest things to the legislature, to the Congress, and then he has to step back and shut up and not say a word, and then they can do what they are charged to do, and then he can either veto it because of its unconstitutionality or not. But he can't veto it because he doesn't like it. The president constitutionally can't veto a bill because because the Congress spends too much money. That's not his job. If they are constitutionally charged to be able to do what they do within that bill, he's obligated to sign it. He has to sign it. Whether he likes it or not, it doesn't matter. And this is the rub for me, is the more I learn, frankly, the more depressing our situation is to me. And I don't frankly know what to do with it other than just to suck it up and live with it. Live with the reality that we'll probably never get back to where I want us to be. And I think it's because no matter how many amendments, if the Convention of the States comes up with a bunch of amendments that change things seemingly for the better, it's still up to the president to veto anything that's unconstitutional that comes out. The legislature can put up anything they want. Anything they want, it doesn't matter what it is. They can put it up there for a presidential veto or signing. And if it's constitutional in nature, no matter how egregious he thinks it is, if it's constitutional, if it's within their power to enact that legislation, he has to sign it, whether he likes it or not. And that's I guess my biggest rub here is the executive branch has gone so far off the rails, you cannot blame the legislature for what's happening. This is on the executive. It's on the executive branch because the presidents in the past, and most likely the future, will not see it this way. And it's unfortunate because that's the way the original Constitution was written, and precedent be darned. It doesn't make any difference what the Supreme Court says or what anyone else says. If the president deems that it's unconstitutional, that's it. End of argument. And then it goes back to the Congress, and they can, through supermajority, through a 2/3 vote, override his veto, and that's it. But unfortunately, we've gone so far astray from that I fear we will never, ever get it back. And so I guess that's my problem, and I guess it's my problem, and it's something I'm just going to have to live with and just resign myself to the fact that this is the country we live in right now, and hopefully we can just make it a little bit better, because it'll never be as good as it once was. That's it. There's no way I don't think we can ever go back to the way it was supposed to be originally. But I know that sounds depressing. It sounds depressing to me when I ponder on it, and unfortunately I've been pondering a lot lately. But that's just the way it is. I'm just going to have to live with it and just keep on keeping on. So this is the Common Constitutionalist. Yeesh. Signing off. I hope you all have a good weekend. Go Patriots. We'll see you hopefully in the Super Bowl. And that's all I got. Be good.